Ladies and gentlemen, this is Internet Personality Vangelus, and I'm taking a look at another once deluxe, now Warrior RID 2015 figure, Strongarm. This is a new female Autobot character that doesn't reference, like, RC or Elita 1, and that's pretty cool. She seems to be an eager young cop, and she's voiced by Janine from House of Cards. All constant Zimmer trivia aside, let's see how her robot action figure debut turned out. Strongarm's law enforcement power truck mode is much bigger than I expected. It's wide and bulky and built to ram criminal cars cartwheeling into submission. How does she pull it off? Well, when viewed from the bottom, Strongarm's alt mode has a lot of airspace inside, but hey, from all views that involve her keeping all four wheels on the ground, things look pretty solid. As for color, Strongarm's got a simple palette of Arctic white and law enforcement blue. While it looks like she's got minimal paint to cover her windows, headlights, and light bar, she's actually got a bunch of white and blue applications that sadly pull a deluxe knockout in unifying some of the vehicle mode without adding much visual bang. Also, her bumpers are begging for some paint, at least to cover up the white parts on the rear end. The gun accessory can store up atop the roof if you want it to look super duper dumb. The proper place to plug it in is sideways along the underbelly, pegged into Strongarm's chest. It blends really well into the rolling silhouette down here, not hanging low at all and allowing the big police truck to roll around with authority. Yeah, I feel bad about that one too. For a Transformer that looks like she's hiding under a giant truck shell, Strongarm only pulls that trick with the center third of her alt mode. Her legs are two big, solid chunks of vehicle, and her arms are two perhaps slightly less solid chunks of vehicle, though it is design accurate for her biceps to primarily consist of the mass of her front tires. Like Steeljaw, Strongarm has a decent and fun transformation core, but lacks 2 or 3 extra little touches that would finish off her conversion really well, such as closing up the backs of her legs or collapsing her wing plates up just a bit. So, I think Strongarm's robot mode turned out alright on this toy. She's got a clear and strong body silhouette under some big chunks of truck armor, and yeah, a big unfortunate trio of flaps on her back. I guess this is a backpack, but to be perfectly honest, the only parts that truly offend are the 2 wing-like pieces. It's not an actual glob of parts, and the central panel is folded up pretty tightly against her back. I know this aspect has ruined the toy for many people, but it really doesn't bug me all that much. Strongarm's got a decent head sculpt, and despite some boxy hand panel enclosures, huge wings, and some truck mode mush sticking off the sides of her legs, I think she looks pretty adequate. Unfortunately, her paint does her very few favors, even leaving several details on her helmet and face unhighlighted as it barely brings much of her newly revealed robot componentry to life. And while I've not seen much of the new show yet as of this recording, even I can tell she's missing some signature color work like the striping that should be on her chest plate. Repro labels ahoy, I guess! Strongarm's gun looks pretty cool, but its sculpted muzzle flash only makes me imagine that she's basically got the trigger pulled at all times, blasting floors and walls when she's not taking aim at the enemy. It's a sort of endearing thing to me, but if it bothers you, it should be pretty simple to lop the FX sculpting off with some sharp modeling tools, like a knife. Flap, 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 look, Strongarm has wing joints on her backpack thing. There, I made that joke, ha 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 ha. Her head is on a, ball joint. And it's a pretty good ball joint. It's got no limitation from her chin sculpt, looking left and right. She can look up pretty far, and she can get just a tad of side-to-side head waggle tilt. So, I kind of like that. That's a very decent neck ball joint. Her shoulders are a ball joint connected here, and that's really the primary point of motion for them. In fact, you can use that ball joint to get them to swing out this far without using the hinge. If you use the hinge, then boom, you know, Bob's your uncle. There is a transformation swivel that may get activated when you're posing her by accident, where you're trying to move her arms and that part starts moving. It's not the end of the world if that happens, but I think that messes with her shoulder alignment a little bit. She's got 2 joints in here. They're kind of together forming, like this is definitely the elbow down here. That's the elbow. There's the bicep swivel. There's a joint here, though, and I think between them and the ball joint, that's sort of how you get her arm curl posability. I don't think that there's any way to define this as like a second elbow. I wouldn't call this a double-jointed elbow. It's more like just a triple-jointed arm, and it does a decent job of what it's trying to do. Unless you're trying to get like a really weird like bicep swivel out, arm curled up pose, then you're going to run into some limitations as boxes hit boxes. No wrists on her because her hands are just inside these containers, which are probably my least favorite part of the figure. This thing just doesn't bother me that much. Like, it doesn't put her off balance whatsoever because it's just these two panels. Like, this is barely a backpack. I wouldn't even define it as one. She just has a pair of wing panels that are a bit too large. I wish this bit, like, flipped in. She's got a waist joint, so that's yet another mark up for her over Steeljaw. And her hips are ball-jointed, and they've got massive Van Daminator capability. So, you know, she can throw a chair at someone, etc. Her thighs are on a mushroom peg swivel. Her knees are a solid box-on-box 90-degree bend. And then, if you want, her feet can point, thanks to the transformation. And that can help out a bit with some posing possibilities. So, for a toy that could be regarded as cheap or kiddie or too simple, like, I can get her into a fairly decent pose without much work. And I think it's a pretty dynamic looking pose too. I really like the posability setup on Strongarm. I don't feel like anything's really like critically missing. Wrist would have been nice, but that would have involved a completely different forearm and hand design. These things, I've bumped them out of alignment now and then, but they do lock in pretty well. They are not Flopmaster flat crap like on Steeljaw's forearms. So, I really dig Strongarm's posability. It's a extremely strong, if basic, package of moving parts, and it leaves me feeling quite satisfied, because you can also just get... Hang on, I gotta do this for Nick. On the T16 Skyhop SAS meter, she's also got something going on. There is SAS potential here, so... Well done, Strongarm. Following in the footsteps of Steeljaw, Strongarm's a bit of a stronger toy, but just as adequate at the end of the day. She definitely shares the bullet points of having a fun and quick transformation with a few cool steps, and a few more absent ones that clearly would have tightened up her bot mode overall. Add in her fairly simplistic color work, and she continues the Warrior Deluxe trend of being okay, but hardly worth throwing down tons of time and money to procure. But speaking for myself, I find the toy fun enough to feel satisfied. While she's got a number of faults, her positives just manage to outweigh them for me to enjoy the figure, far more than I do Steeljaw. She articulates decently and has a clearly defined robot mask that gets across a nice amount of emotion in a respectable variety of poses. If you're into the character design and avoid paying over the most minimal of retail prices, I think you'll end up with a fun little desk toy in this figure. Anyway, this has been internet personality Vangelus, and while I'm not in a rush to pick up Grimlock and Bumblebee, I've heard enough friendly banter about the other two Warrior Deluxes to track them down in the long run. I just don't know how long of a run it'll be quite yet.